Hi, I'm James. Let's take a look at how to use the Advanced Rich Text Editor plugin from Zeroqode. Just before we jump into it, if you need any help building your app or product, feel free to reach out to our team by visiting our website at zeroqode.com. We're the largest maker of plugins for Bubble, as well as the top gold tier Bubble agency. We have almost 10 years of experience and can help you build any web, mobile, or AI product, or even help automate your business. While you're there, make sure you check out zeroqode.com/plugins. This is the full list of all the plugins we make, and there's like over 700 of them. So there's something there to cover pretty much everything your app could possibly need to do. For example, there's Stripe Marketplace Express. This helps you accept credit card payments on your app. There's Mapbox Maps, and this gives all sorts of maps functionality. This one's really good for saving on Bubble's hosting costs. This is AWS File Uploader, so you can store your files on your own S3 bucket. There's Air Calendar, there's Air Chat and Messaging. There's so many more there, so definitely explore that and check that out. All right, let's take a look at the plugin page itself. So there's a few things here to be aware of if you're thinking about installing this plugin or while installing this plugin. The first is we have a little demo here on this page where you can interact with this, play with the rich text editor input here, look at all the options that are available, and try it out yourself from a user's point of view. On that note, there's also a live demo button here, which will open up a pre-built app from us at Zeroqode that have a lot more options, the different configurations and variations of how you can install this plugin. And similarly, we have a demo editor button here, which will open up the same app, but within the Bubble editor. So you can see it from how it's set up and how it's built. And you can kind of reverse engineer it and pull it apart and have a look at the components that are added to the page and the workflows and how it all works here. So we can see, let's have a look. Open up the content, we can see we have the full text editor, we have the Lite version, and we'll go into this ourselves in a moment. But this is just a really good place to see how things are set up, what can be done, the read-only mode, focus on the editor in terms of workflows. And yes, having a look at the workflows that are attached to this and how functionality has been achieved within the demo editor. Past that, back on our plugin page, two more things to have a look at. The documentation link here is super important. This is a full breakdown of everything that the plugin can do and how to do it all. We've got two versions here, the main version and the Lite version of the input, and then what it all looks like in all the different fields and the actions and events that you have access to and what they all do and how to set them all up with visuals and diagrams and everything you need to get this up and running. And the last thing is our intercom widget here in the bottom right. If you have any questions, any concerns, any problems while installing this app, any questions about this plugin before you install this plugin, send us a message here on intercom and we would love to help you out and help you get started and get it all set up. All right, but for now, let's build something together. Let's get something simple built and get the ball rolling to get you started with this plugin. All right, the first thing we want to do is actually get this plugin into your app. So from here on your main Bubble screen, on the left-hand side, click on the Plugins tab here. And then in the top right, click on Add Plugins. In here, we're going to type in Advanced Rich Text. And there we go. The first one here, Advanced Rich Text Editor by Zeroqode, is the one we're looking for. Now, you'll have two options to install this plugin. You've got a once-off payment, or you can pay monthly. Now, the monthly subscription is the most risk-free way to try this plugin out, as you're charged on a pro rata basis. So you're only charged for the days that you have the plugin installed and active in your app. So what this would mean, this is a $5 a month plugin. This would mean if you install the plugin, use it for one day and decide it's not for you and remove it, you'll only be charged $5 divided by however many days are in that month. So 30 days. So it's really risk-free, a great way to try this out and check that it works for you before committing to, a one-stop payment or a larger purchase like that. All right, cool. So once you found that, click on install, get it in your app, and let's check it out. Once you have the plugin installed in your app, let's have a look at some of the new assets and elements and workflows that are now available to us. So once we're in our main Bubble edit view here, let's have a look at the assets panel. On your left-hand side here, you'll see two new options, ZQ ITE and ZQ Lite ITE for Zeroqode Rich Text Editor. These are the two types of rich text editor assets we can put onto our canvas, depending on the look and feel and behavior that we want in our particular app. So I put one of each on my screen here. I've got the standard one here and the Lite one here. So we can compare these and just to start with and see what we're working with. Let's hit preview and see what they both look like. Here we are. So on our preview screen, we have the two input elements. The top one is kind of your standard rich text editor component that you'd expect. You've got a toolbar on the top with all the options and an area for typing underneath. Now we can control all of these and we'll have a look at how to do that in a moment. But for now, let's just put everything on as default. So it does look a bit cluttered. So we'll go ahead and change that. Underneath, we have the Lite version. Now, this looks a lot more minimal. If I type something here, if I can spell something, and then I and then I highlight that, we can now see that the toolbar appears on selection. So once I select a word or a phrase or a sentence, then all the options become available to me, and I can start, playing around with the formatting and the options, and adding images and files and links and things like that. So they're the two main differences. We've got the standard component, which has everything in a toolbar on the top, and then we have the more minimal Lite version that has the toolbar appear on selection. Okay, let's jump back to our editor and see some ways we can customize these and start to work with these. So let's start with the standard element here. I'll select that, and in our properties panel here, we've got a bunch of things we can start to play with. So let's have a look just briefly at some of these. The top section, we can have a look at some of the more general settings we can control. So the max file limit and whether file uploads are enabled. So we can use this plugin for users to add images and files to their the rich text element itself and have that be saved to the database. So this lets us choose whether this is enabled and what limits we want to place on saving files, on file sizes, which is pretty important when you're looking at, database size limits and keeping costs low. We got our placeholder, we got initial content if we want to put something in there, and then we can specify the maximum amount of characters that we want in this input. Underneath that, we start to see what we want to control within the toolbar. So we can choose the position, we can choose the background color of the toolbar, the color of the icons, the hover color of the icons, and then all the options within here, within the actual toolbar, so bold, italic, strike through, underline, everything you'd expect in text formatting and text styling. So we can turn those on and off as we want and have that as clean, as busy, as minimal as we're wanting to. And that goes right down to is there emoji, is there inline emoji, they're custom fonts, lots of stuff there to personalize this and make this feel just the way, as native as possible within your app's design and your app's functionality. Below that, we have some options for image settings. So max width, max height, where does the image come from? Is it from a URL or from uploading from your local machine? Where it gets uploaded to. So you can upload these to Wasabi or AWS if you're not wanting to use the Bubble database. And then a bunch of settings for configuring AWS if you're wanting to specify the bucket and things like that. Now, this also includes mentions and hashtags within the text editor. So you can have users, mention something else in a database or use hashtags to categorize things, and you get to set all those settings here. And this is done by specifying, where in the database these mentions are referencing, and we can have a look at the workflows in a moment for specifying what happens when someone clicks on one of these mentions, and the same for hashtags. This is super handy as well. You can put in a list of banned words and links if you're wanting to, keep things, family friendly or wanting to keep things on a certain topic or off a certain topic. And then below that, we have our standard style options for a bubble element. And if I click the Lite version, we should see that all of that is the same there as well. It's really just the display of that element on the front end, whether that's a toolbar or whether that's a floating bar on selection. But functionality-wise, we have it all there. For now, though, let's keep things relatively simple. This is just to get you started and have a look at how this can be, installed and put into your app. So we've dragged both elements onto the canvas. We had them in the canvas. I put some groups around them so that there's some padding and some nice space around them here. I might then just want to turn on and off a few of these elements for this top one. So maybe we don't need strike through. We don't need code block. What else? Wait, maybe not. We don't need lists or text. Let's just turn off a bunch of these and just make sure that things are behaving the way we want them to. Let's put a background on the actual toolbar itself so we see some differentiation. I'll just put a light gray, maybe something like that. The icons should stay the way they are. What else should we? I think everything else can kind of stay the way it is. Let's just have a look at how that looks there. We'll refresh our page. Okay, so we now see that we've reduced the number of elements in our toolbar. We've got a gray background for the toolbar, so there's some differentiation. It's very easy to customize this and make this work for your app and make this fit within your app. And with a few clicks, we've already changed the functionality attached to this toolbar and the styling around this particular input. Let's try something. Let's have a look at how to save some text to our database. So I'll just make a new data type. We'll call it RTE for Rich Text Editor for now. And I'll put a new field on. I'll just call this text body. And we'll have this type as text. Cool. Let's go back to our design. I'll put a button on the page. I'm making this very rough and ready and very simple because this is just a quick demo. I'm sure you'll make this look a lot nicer in your app. We'll just put a label on that says save text. Okay, cool. let's add a workflow to this button. When this is clicked, I'm just going to delete this workflow we had from before. All right, when this is clicked, we want to make changes to a thing. Actually, no, we want to create a new thing. And that new thing we want to make is a rich text editor field. We'll set the field and we'll say the text body is RTE. This isn't the light one. This is the top one, which was our standard component. And we'll say, now we can see there's a lot we can play with here in this workflow. So, the last selection that the user selected, the content length, the HTML, and here we go. So mentions and hashtags, if we actually want to, save the reference of which hashtag a mention was there. For now, I think we're just going to do the text itself. Nice and simple. That should do it. So if we now preview our app, this is some saved text. I will click Save Text. And in theory, if we go back to our database, we should see, there we go. This is some saved text. Cool, nice and easy. Now, that worked well, but that's not that different from a standard import. So let's start working with some of the rich text components here. I'm going to put a text element on the page, and I will put some dynamic data here. Let's do a search for our rich text editor, the latest item, its text body. Because that's going to go into our database, look for the latest rich text editor entry we put in there and grab the text from there and put it in here. So let's see how that looks. I'll preview our app. Okay, and there we go. It's pulled the text that we just saved in our database as the latest entry into that database table. And that's what we wrote. This is some saved text. If I make something new now and press Save Text, it's going to show it in this text field because it's going to grab the latest one in that database. So let's try it out. But this time, let's say this is bold and this is underlined. And I will just use keyboard shortcuts to bold and underline this. Now I'll press Save Text and it hasn't shown up. It's just standard plain text here. So we need to make some adjustments then to make this actually work. So let's go back to our editor. I'm going to change this workflow here. So instead of creating a new RTE in my database based on the text from that input, I'm going to change it to the HTML from that input, which will bring all the styling and the styling and rich elements into what's saved. So let's try it again. Go to preview. Let's do our same. This is bold and this is underlined. I'll make that underlined and bold and I'll save. All right, so we have the HTML, but it's not displayed correctly because it's in just a standard text element. But we're getting somewhere here. We can see that we have color, we have tags for bold and tags for underlined, and this is all in the right direction. Instead of having a text element here, let's put an HTML element here. And inside this, we will say the same thing we have here. I'm going to copy this expression and I will add a dynamic data here and I will paste this expression here. So again, it's going to search the database for the latest entry in our RTE, our rich text editor data type that we made, and put the body that's saved there from our workflow into this component. But because this is an HTML component, we should see something different. There we go. Now it's showing up in our second component as bold and underlined. So we should be able to now, this is all bold. Let's make bold capitals and maybe italic as well, just for fun. I'll press save. And there we go. This is now showing up nicely. So we can see actually what's being saved in here, but it's not displayed correctly because it's a text element. And now we can see how it should be displayed with this HTML element. Cool. So that's the basics of getting these components on our page, looking at some of the basic workflows and then saving something to a database and showing it with the rich elements included in the text. But like I said, play around with that demo app. There's a lot more that this can do in terms of whatever use case you have, whether it's a social app, whether it's comments on a blog, whether it's a forum, or whether it's just a standard input within your app that needs some more advanced functionality. But yeah, documentation and the demo app on our plugin page are going to be great for more advanced use cases. And that's about it for this video. This should be enough to get you started and get the ball rolling with getting this plugin into your app and starting to work with workflows and saving some text to the database and working with it from there. But if you have any problems, any questions at all before installing this, while installing this, please do reach out to us. We've got our intercom chat bubble on our website. We would love to help you out. Until then, happy building.